1971, the first two arcade video games were unveiled. Galaxy Game, which was a space combat game, made it into two cabinets, but was never released commercially. It was followed by Computer Space, another space combat game that actually went into commercial production at the end of that year. Its screen was a 15-inch black and white TV. What followed was decades of communal video game magic. However, nowadays arcades have mostly been reduced to places like Dave & Buster's, where you play reformatted versions of mobile games in hopes of winning tickets. Welcome to the first ever episode of Big Kid, a podcast for the big kid in all of us. I'm Chris Hayner, and this week I'm joined by writer, comedian, streamer, podcaster, and BFF Mat Elfring to talk about arcade games and why we think they're so cool. Hey, Matt.
Hi, Chris. Hi. Hey, buddy.
Look at you, man. We did it.
We did it. We're together again. Back together again.
Yeah,
right,
we're
in the same old story.
Podcasting not for a major corporation. That's pretty good.
No, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Is this the first time we've recorded since we did the last for the uninitiated? Matt and I previously co-hosted Wrestle Buddies, a pro wrestling podcast that's now owned by Fandom and GameSpot, and we recorded our final episode in Dallas, Texas, before walking to the Royal Rumble.
Together, what a weird, in the same room.
What a weird time. Yeah, we were recording together. It was beautiful, and I thought I gotta have Matt on the show, but we can't talk about wrestling, at least not yet. That's too easy.
It's too easy. It's way too easy to just talk about wrestling. But Chris, thank you for having me on your first premiere episode.
You're my I mean, I was gonna say you're my wrestle buddy, but I can't because we'll be sued. You're my you're my podcasting buddy.
We are podcast. Okay, we have this is the third or fourth podcast we've done together.
It's true.
Wrestle Buddies, my old show, podcast Killed the Video Star.
Love that show.
And then you and I will be doing something again very soon.
But Matt, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about arcade games. As a vague primer, I love to this day video game arcades. I remember my hometown haunts, like where we went to play the games. However, in more modern times, arcade games have been really dominated by Arcade 1-Up and the like, and you got me into those.
I unfortunately put you down a dark path of $500 giant pieces of
press board and plastic
to play 4 games. I'm so sorry.
Don't be. As it stands, I still only have the one. It's a lot bigger than it used to be because I traded in regular NBA Jam for the Shaq edition.
Yes.
And that's currently in my living room until I buy more. But Matt, run me through the list of what you got in the office you're sitting in right now.
Okay, I'm gonna look over. What's the cabinets I have? We'll put it that way. We'll start with just the cabinets.
Yeah, you don't have to go through all the games that are on them.
No, I've got the Midway 12-in-1 Mortal Kombat 2. That's untouched.
Beautiful art. God,
yeah.
We're gonna have to talk about cabinet art at some point because holy cow.
Yes. Marvel Superheroes, which was I think like Gen 2 of Arcade 1-Up. And then I have NBA Jam regular edition, not the Shaq edition. And then I have my $150 Final Fight that I got from Walmart, which is no longer Final Fight. It's now everything.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry. Theoretically, it's everything. Hypothetically.
Yes. Yeah, not in reality. Okay, take me back to the beginning though. What was your game when you were a kid? What was your favorite game? Or even the first game? Like, what is your arcade game history like?
The local arcade that I would go to all the time was Aladdin's Castle in the St. Charles Mall, which is very much a mall that was destroyed 20-something years ago.
Aladdin's Castle sounds so dope, though.
It was maybe 30 feet by 30 feet. It was just a regular retail.
Oh, it was
store.
Like a tiny one.
This is in a mall, and I think most of the time I just played like Golden Axe or Golden Axe 2. I can't remember. It was one of the Golden Axe games. And then also Dungeons and Dragons, Shadow of Doom. It had Shadow in the title.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, this is late '80s, early '90s, and it was dominated by side-scrolling beat 'em ups. That's all you played were side-scrolling beat 'em ups.
Oh, so good. And not always side scrolling. Once in a while you'd move down. The map would go down and then back to side scrolling.
Well, if you look at the '80s, most maps were up and down. When we get into the '90s, it's left to right. I mean, yes, there's a Z plane that you could go up and down too, but it is a side scroller.
Oh, absolutely. It's the same with, honestly, Ninja Turtles, the Simpsons arcade, all of the Double Dragons is like they're all the same and they're all incredible. Do you have any specific games that you remember being either very, very good at or just very attached to?
Chris, you've learned firsthand how good I am at NFL Blitz.
Oh God. Okay, so literally 2 weeks before the pandemic ended the world for 3 years or whatever, Matt and I were both in San Francisco at the GameSpot offices because we both worked there at the time. And we everybody went together to this barcade after work one day.
Yeah.
Which barcades are awesome, especially if they have pinball machines.
Mm-hmm.
They were all playing, what's the name of that game? Mother Queen? Or
it's Killer Queen.
Killer Queen. Everyone
yeah.
was obsessed with Killer Queen. Dope game. I enjoyed it. Terrible at it. But you and I found a Fast and Furious driving game, which pumped a lot of quarters into. But then we found upstairs where there was Matt, and you will confirm this, literally nobody else upstairs.
It was pretty much just us.
Yeah. It was me and Matt. And it's where I feel like all the old games were, including NFL Blitz. And I loved NFL Blitz. I played it primarily on the Super Nintendo though.
Mm-hmm.
So I thinking,
first of all, Chris, you played NFL Blitz on the Nintendo 64, not the Super Nintendo.
Oh, you're right. You are correct. My apologies.
It was most likely also NFL Blitz 2000. It wasn't an NFL Blitz 2000 arcade that we were playing there too as well.
Yeah. So I thought I had the upper hand. And then Matt didn't just do well. First of all, I have to say I did pick the San Diego Chargers. I love the San Diego Chargers. They are my team. However, they're bad. Matt demolished me so bad that I was just like, I don't want to talk about it.
Chris, also I took it easy on you, and then you found out after the game was over, and I think I beat you 70-7 or something. You found out that I was an NFL Blitz 2000 arcade champion at one point during I think 2002. I won a big arcade tournament for oh God, what's the company that makes it? It's Midway.
Wow. See, the closest I have to that is I won a POG tournament one time in the 90s. That's a story for another episode.
Though. That's also not the only arcade title I held from back then.
Wait, what else did you have?
So the NFL Blitz one I won was I'm pretty sure it was sanctioned through Midway. I won the game for Nintendo 64, which I already owned at that time on PlayStation.
Perfect.
I think I won $500 or something. I also won a time contest at Soul Calibur 2. I can't remember the time. It's under 3 minutes beating the game. With Sophicia.
You beat Soul Calibur 2 in under 3 minutes?
Yeah, because there's a cheap move you can do. You just hold back, and I think it's light punch with Sophicia. Woman with sword and buckler. So I can't say her name.
I'm gonna if it involves a cheat code, it should not count.
It's not really a cheat code. It's just if you can get that attack in once, you can just spam it over and over again because the player you're playing against doesn't have enough time to recover and can't get into block phase. So you can't guard if you get hit once, and you keep spamming it over and over. And then also I want what?
Good work.
Thank you very much. That's the very first kind of weird time run thing I've ever done, and only I think at that time. And I also won a tournament of X-Men versus Street Fighter as well back then.
Dude, that game is so hard. Here's my thing. I love arcades. I love video games. I love arcade games. I'm terrible at arcade games. I love them to death, but I'm definitely I'm the person that the game companies want, because I'm the one who's like, oh, I died again. I got to pump in another quarter.
Yes.
I was such a mark for this throughout the 90s.
But I'm the guy sitting there at like Tekken Tag, never letting anybody else beat me because I'm just destroying them with true ogre.
And I'm just looking at you and I'm like, I hate him because he's so cool. I hate him because he's so cool. So Matt, then in that case, what was the game that you were terrible at?
See, that's tough because I'm not. What am I bad at?
I will say I do want to pump myself up here.
Okay, please do.
I'm pretty good at Rampage. Rampage was an all timer.
Which me. Rampage?
I love OG 3-player Rampage.
So the first Midway one, yeah.
Because I will say I have recently, in the past couple of weeks, played new Rampage at a Dave & Buster's, which is based on the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movie.
I was there right next to you.
Oh, snap. I've played it twice at Dave & Buster's recently then. Because I went to Dave & Buster's with my partner, Nikki, whose name we will be saying on this show.
Oh.
Which we never did on Wrestle Buddies.
No, we never did.
Because Nikki will be on the show eventually. And we with some friends, and while everyone else was playing all kinds of games, and I stuck to like 3 or 4, but we all got in on a game of Rampage, and it was fantastic. Game still rips.
I'm a big fan of World Tour, which was
that
did come out in arcades, also on 64. And then there's also Universal Tour, and I'm not sure if that actually came out in arcade or not, or was just ported straight to that might be PS1 64, maybe PS2.
I have never played that.
Universal Tour, you play as like a mouse or a rat, or the original 3 I think you can play as, but it's mostly like a rat, a bat, and something else.
Give me Lizzie, bro. I just want to be Lizzie.
I'm a George. George is my guy.
George rules. They all look. They're all pretty fan.
They're all great.
Just the best. That movie though, woof.
That movie, it's exactly what it is. Are you really expecting a good video game movie from
Dwayne Johnson?
No, just from the story of here's 3 monsters going across the city or across the country, just destroying cities. That's all it is.
I will say, I don't know if you remember this, but my favorite thing about the movie was that in the villain's office, they had a Rampage arcade cabinet.
Yes.
I was like, okay, how are they not seeing the stuff between these things that are exactly the same? How are they not seeing the connections here?
Yeah. Chris, here's something I don't think you knew about me. I might have told you once or twice, because my whole world of arcade love and everything was something I don't think you found out about until I don't know, maybe about right before the pandemic, and we had known each other for years. I worked in an arcade as a technician for a couple of years during high school and after high school.
Tell me everything.
Okay, so here's the deal. Every ticket game is super duper duper rigged. They are all the most rigged games. Well, at least stuff in 2001, 2002. Some more so than others.
I 100% believe that. Of course they are. Because also, if you think back to 2001, 2002, they were doing stuff like putting PS1s and GameCubes in the ticket store. Those aren't cheap. Those are not cheap. So it's not like they're going to make it easy for you to come in and spend $20 and walk out with a GameCube.
But when you play the shoot the hoops game where you've got to shoot a basket in it, and then in the last 9 seconds it's 3 points or whatever.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'd be like,
was
oh
the
man,
hoop misshapen?
No, hoop's not misshapen on those.
Okay.
But it can be set to in a menu for the sensors to not pick up everything that passes by.
What?
Yeah,
that's terrible.
But that's the cool thing about working in an arcade. I worked in an arcade. I learned how all these games worked. I learned about all the programming menus and how ticket payouts, and you get printable sheets from each of the ticket games saying well, here's how much money went into it. Here's the ticket payout, so you can kind of adjust how much money you're making. And we tried to keep it
that's really interesting.
We tried to keep it fair. I mean, you want to take in more money than you're putting out, but you also want people to come back and not feel ripped off. It's a fine line.
What was the name of the arcade you worked at?
Was
that
called
Aladdin's Castle?
No, it was Time Out.
Time Out.
Time Out Arcade.
Was this also in St. Charles?
This was at the Charlestown Mall in St. Charles.
Oh, does that mall still exist?
It exists. The only thing that's in it is a fancy overpriced clothing store and a movie theater, but everything else is empty in it. It's been empty for like a decade.
Oh, that's kind of wonderful.
Yeah.
I've found a couple of ghost malls out here in Florida in the past few months, and it's fascinating.
Yes.
I will say, growing up, we had 2 arcade. Okay, so Matt, I think we've talked about this. I'm from Stockton, California.
Yes.
In the like the dead center of the state, and Stockton had 2 malls that were across the street from each other.
Mm-hmm. Wait.
Indoor
malls?
Literally. Yes. 2 indoor malls owned by different companies, named different things, shared some stores. Literally, I could walk out of the mall, walk across the street, walk into the other mall.
Which one had the better Sam Goody?
Ooh, Weberstown.
Because everyone had a Sam Goody then.
Weberstown had the better Sam Goody. I'll say this though, Matt. Sherwood Mall had the better Spencer's. So do with that what you will. They're both kind of disastrous now. In fact, I just visited home for the first time in a couple of years, a couple of weeks ago, and the Sherwood Mall is currently being turned into an outdoor mall because I guess they're conceding the war. But both malls had video game arcades. One of them was incredible. One of them was a joke. The joke was at Sherwood Mall. It was Tilt, which I believe was like a chain arcade where it was just built into one empty storefront, and they had ticket games, and then they had some arcade games, and then it was a nice little mix. It was small. It felt very kiddie to me as a kid. But like, I was young, but I was like, this is where babies play their video games. I play across the street at Oz. Weberstown Mall had turned its entire freaking basement into a video game arcade called Oz.
Really?
To get to it, you had to literally walk down a huge staircase to the basement, and that's where Oz was, and it was beautiful.
Chris, I live, I believe, near the biggest arcade in the country for sure. It's one of the top 5 in the world, and that's Galloping Ghost Arcade in Brookfield, Illinois.
You've told me about this.
I've been there. I used to go there a lot before I had a kid. I've done interviews.
Is your kid getting old enough now to where you can start taking him?
Oh, we go to the arcades. There's an arcade out in a couple towns over, a town called Aurora, which you probably known for Wayne's World. That's
all I know it for. Is Stan Mikita's Donuts there?
Stan Mikita's Donuts does not exist. If you want to talk about Wayne's World stuff,
we should legit. We should put that on the books because I have so many questions about Aurora as it is portrayed in a movie.
Yeah, it's nothing like it.
No.
So yeah, there's a 2. I don't know what the arcade's called, but it's 2 levels. It's primarily ticket games. They're in racing games. Racing game is kind of the only really last standing thing in arcade, just in general right now. It's that and tickets. I mean, there's Street Fighter and Tekken, but that's just like a PS5 like in there or something, or an Xbox in there. But he really enjoys going and playing like the Mario Kart, like the actual sit down Mario Kart game that's there. Mostly racing.
I would like to say this. Best game in the arcade these days is the Mario.
It is
Kart.
Mario
especially
Kart.
Especially you get that 4-player Mario Kart. Mm-hmm. Like, it is the closest. Again, I'm now a Dave and Buster's connoisseur.
Yes,
it is the closest I feel to a video game arcade experience when I'm sitting down at a Mario Kart with people sitting beside me also racing and just having a blast.
You see, that's the thing is I mean, you and I both game. I was at the game spot. You're at the game spot.
It's true.
But gaming, to me, it was much more fun as a communal experience at an arcade or at home. Have people with you. Like online gaming never really spoke to me aside from like Fall Guys. So it's going to the arcade is a much more fun experience. Kind of, I know, and it's such a ripoff now.
Absolutely,
such a ripoff.
It's such a ripoff now. But honestly, it's not like it wasn't a ripoff in the past. But I remember when, like, in the beginning, games were a quarter.
Yes.
And then slowly but surely they became 50 cents.
It's when when Mortal Kombat, I think Mortal Kombat 2 primarily.
I think Mortal Kombat 2 was like that dividing point, because we were still, so I didn't play Mortal Kombat at Oz because I didn't live close enough to the mall where it was like, if I needed a quick fix, I could run over there. However, around the corner from me was an establishment called New York Donuts.
Okay.
New York Donuts had one arcade game and one pinball machine at all times, and for a while they rotated until Mortal Kombat came out, and then Mortal Kombat was there. No, I'm sorry, they had 2 cabinets and a pinball, because they had side by side Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter 2.
Ooh.
And then eventually MK2 and Street Fighter Turbo Championship Edition or whatever.
Super Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition.
Yeah. And so, like, that's where I did my reps playing Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, was there in the donut shop, where we would pump quarters in and then take 2 quarters up to the counter and ask for a chocolate milk and then keep pumping quarters in.
Yeah.
And those were the days, man.
There's something so satisfying about, like, watching 2 people play and then put your quarter up on the railing there. Like, I got next. Like, there's just something very weird and satisfying about that.
There's also, and tell me if you've ever experienced this, there's this weird kinetic energy when someone, whether you know them or not, is doing really good at a game and a crowd starts to gather.
Yes.
And then people are like cheering, and like it's this weird experience that, like, you don't get that now, because most gaming is online, and when the only interaction you get online is people telling you that you suck.
No, I think you get that on Twitch. I think that experience of video gaming, because I do a little bit of twitching, playing on the Twitch, and you do get that experience. You
Twitch yourself.
I Twitch. I'm on my friend Jordan Holmes' stream, and he does speed running for Final Fantasy VII. And him and I talk to each other, and we're both on camera while he's learning to speed run. And cool. He has like a really cool following of people that like get really excited, like, for when he's like doing well. And I stream wrestling games, and I just make bad wrestlers. That's all I do. But when people come in, like, it's a very fun communal experience again. I think, and that's what I like about Twitch, is that it kind of captures, and I'm not great at Twitch by any means yet. I'm still working on figuring that out.
Right.
But what I really do enjoy is that, like, you start getting that kind of community, those people around the cabinet behind you, like, say, like, yeah, like, make sure you smash Peoria with George.
Dude, I didn't even realize that like that's how the Twitch would go. Like, that's so fun.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back in.
Yeah, when I got laid off from GameSpot, I went full in on Twitch, on like
you went
people's channels.
Yeah, look, hey, it's working out.
We're getting there.
You got yourself a little following. You're going to keep on growing it.
Yeah.
Okay. Arcade 1-ups. You have several. I have one. I keep telling myself I won't buy more. I'll probably end up buying more eventually. Have you played any of the non-arcade? Because, like, okay, Arcade 1-Up is the primary maker of the basically you can buy a retro arcade game cabinet with but it's like 2/3 the size ish or less.
About that.
Yeah. And it instead of costing like $2,000, it costs like $450.
Well, and that's what they're like
or that's what it used to cost. Yeah, now they're the cost of cheap plywood can't be that much.
No, I mean, and there's a lot of companies that are doing it now. Even SNK has one. Like their
I want the SNK one. I remember at one point that the donut shop I went to got an SNK, like their Street Fighter broke and it went away for a while and it got replaced by one of those SNK multicades, and it was the coolest.
Chris, you have no idea.
Several games in one.
You can technically do whatever you want on those. My buddy has a old school Neo Geo like SNK cabinet, and it has the memory card ports. So if he had a Neo Geo, he could transfer his saved game.
Oh wow.
But you open that machine up and there's just like 6, well, it depends what kind of cabinet you have, but like you just pull out these, like it's about a foot and a foot wide and about 2 to 3 inches thick, and the depth's about a foot. And that's what the game is on, like this giant almost floppy disk, and you kind of just there's 5 slots that you just kind of plug it in. It's a very plug and play thing. So if you want to buy a brand new game,
Wow.
you don't have to get a new cabinet. You just pull out one of the slots and put in another one. Like, so the Neo Geo SNK arcade was revolutionary, and I can't believe that more companies didn't follow suit. I know Capcom
It's
kind of tried to do something like that with the Capcom machine, but
yeah.
why wasn't Konami doing that? Why wasn't,
It's like the original moddable arcade cabinet.
it really is, because it allowed you to pick like one of 6 games or whatever. And if you got 3 of those running with like, you can have, 21 games going, or to 18 games. I forget how many it was. I think it was 6.
And I will say, it is unfortunate that the Neo Geo is kind of forever branded with this unfortunate like memory of the console flopping. Like
Yeah.
that's a bummer because like that's some revolutionary shit.
But also, like, it was the first time we had an arcade and console that were like the same power. Like, what you played in the arcade was the same thing you could play at home. Like, that was revolutionary at that time.
Absolutely.
Because during
Yeah.
during that time was what? That's the tail end of like generation technically 3 with like Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis.
Right.
But again, no one wanted to pay at that time $600 in like 1993 money, 1995 money, whatever it was, for an at-home arcade at-home console. When, like, Super Nintendo was what, $200. Sega Genesis at that time, that was towards the tail end, was I think $100. Like,
Yeah,
why
wow.
spend 600?
I can't even imagine a video game console being $100 now. I can't even buy an NES for $100 right now.
Yeah, you can buy like 3-in-1s or 5-in-1s that play NES, Super Nintendo. I have a couple of
Yes, I know.
those.
Yes, I as well. I've got my eyes on a new one. I don't know if you've seen the Analog Pocket, but like it looks very cool.
Yes, I've heard about it. I haven't looked too much into it myself.
So as we mentioned, arcade, there's arcade one up, there's II arcade, there's the SNK Neo Geo machine, and then there's a couple just like random multi-cades that like Walmart has one if you look online and it's got the Aladdin game on it for some reason. Just a random selection of licenses that it got for games.
Oh, there's also like a whole like weird black market too, where it's like
Oh
you can find them
yeah.
on Amazon, and it's like $5,000, and it has every game ever made. And I
And
have a friend.
it's like a video game arcade quality cabinet or much better.
They have HD TVs in them and stuff, which you don't technically need. But I have a friend that has one of those. Like, I think it was like $3,000, ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, it does have every game on there, but the issue is like it's not programmed very well. Yeah, it's a little
No.
skeezy. You need to do a lot of programming on your own to make it work well, and the joystick quality is kind of low grade in my opinion.
I have to be honest with you. I look at those on Amazon from time to time and I'm like, I could get like a payment plan on this. I could
Oh,
just get this with a payment plan. No, I'm not. I'm never going to. Like, first of all, I don't know where it would go.
mhm,
That's kind of like why I like the smaller size arcade cabinets because they don't seem as like encroaching as a
mhm,
standard size
mhm.
video game thing. Okay, but you, my friend,
Hi.
ha- you have some experience. We'll say we're not. We're gonna tiptoe around, I guess, the legalities of it. You own these games, so it's fine.
I own
Um,
every single game ever
yeah,
made.
your collection is
Physical
ridiculous. So you've in the past 6 months ish, I would say, got into modding one of your arcade
it's
one-ups.
been much longer than 6 months of me, like.
Has it really?
So
Is it that difficult? Because
mo-
Reddit makes it seem super easy.
modding's not hard. What is hard is programming like a Raspberry Pi to get emulators to run, and to make things work correctly with a Bluetooth controller, to make things work correctly with a like with your PC board, to make
Mhm.
things work is the complicated part.
Okay.
Simply taking out your joystick section on your arcade one up and putting in a Bluetooth controller that you could probably buy on Amazon, wink, it's not hard. It's not hard, but I think it was about like 6 or 7 years ago, God, whenever Raspberry Pi 3 came out, I did my very first like emulator computer and I was just running only games I owned up until PlayStation 1, obviously, because you shouldn't be downloading games you don't own. Wink.
That's right.
This is the other thing too. It's like it's a weird thing you have to tiptoe around because like I do own a huge collection of retro games. It's retro games. It sounds so weird to say, but like I could reach down right now here and just
though.
I could grab Bayou Billy if you want to see it. I
do. This is an audio podcast, but Matt, let me see Bayou Billy.
Hold on.
I will say Matt has a wild collection of all kinds of crazy stuff.
Okay, so like Bayou Billy's buried at the bottom. I'll pull out Goonies 2 right here.
Goonies 2, fantastic game with some very terrible parts. I'll leave it at that.
Also a great game to play at Pizza Hut in the late 80s.
What? Wait.
It was an arcade game.
What was it really? I never saw Goonies 2 in the arcade. I only ever saw it on the Nintendo where I owned it.
Yeah, it was the Nintendo 10 system. Whatever. Remember like how Nintendo for a while they had their 10s.
Yes.
But Goonies had its own like countertop cabinet where like you could put your slice of pizza at the Pizza Hut on top and then play Goonies 2 for a while.
Oh god.
Goonies 2 is so hard.
Matt, I was just having this discussion with Nikki literally yesterday about, remember when you would go to pizza parlors and stay there for your meal and like hang out, play a game, like Shakey's. Pizza Hut used to be a dine-in establishment.
Yes.
Round table pizza, because that was the other thing. I feel like every pizza place had at least a couple of video games.
Almost every place that you could was a family establishment that you could eat at with your family had an arcade game in it. Everything. They were everywhere. My comic book store that I went to as a kid had Hydro Thunder in it, and prior to that was Cruisin' USA, and then eventually Cruisin' World. But like there was always anywhere that had like preteen to teenager hanging out time up until like the mid 90s, there's an arcade game in there.
And it was awesome. There is I don't know that it's open anymore because of, I believe there was a fire a year or two ago. There was a burger joint, a bar pub, essentially what we know now as a bar pub, a place where you buy a burger and lots of beer, called The Graduate in Stockton. And The Graduate had one wall was just lined with arcade cabinets, and children could only be in there unsupervised because it was technically a bar, I guess, until like 6 or 7 p.m. So if you went to The Graduate after school, it was stuffed with kids who were all lined up to play the latest arcade games, because The Graduate very wisely kept the new games coming in. So anytime something became trendy, you knew exactly where you were going to find it. It was going to be at The Graduate.
And that's why I go to, and again, I'll go back to Galloping Ghost in Brookfield, but like, I think they have at this point, it's like 700 machines. Like when they first opened up and I first went, there was like 100 machines, and it was still amazing.
Wow.
And then
100 is a lot.
They bought the laundromat next door to them, and then they bought another store next to them. They own, I think, 3/4 of the block. I think the Chinese restaurant is still next door. And then there's another building down the street. It's just pinball. But like, so there's a pinball store, which I don't really go into because that costs extra. But it's like 600 arcade games, a bunch of stuff from Japan you'll never see anywhere else. And it's been a while since I've been there. I don't know if they've raised the prices, but like when I first started going there, it was like $8. Then they upped it to 15. I believe it was 25 last time I checked, but it's 20. But you can play as long as you want, and it's all
it's an all-day pass.
Yeah, it's like I pay $25 and I'll stay here till they close, which at the time back then was like 3 a.m.
Right. Do they have like beer and whatnot that you can?
No alcohol, which some of my friends hated, and I loved them. Like, I don't need to be drinking alcohol. Give me an energy drink.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, like I don't want to get drunk.
Yeah, do they? But like, is there a snack bar?
Yeah, there's snacks. Yeah.
Look, as long as you can get refreshments, you could stay there forever.
Exactly. But I went to a bachelor party there once, and we went to a bar first, and then we went to the arcade, and like half the guys were like, "Well, there's nothing to drink here. What do I do?" It's like, well, You're here to play
But,
arcade
like,
games. You could go
play
across the
Tapper.
street. Yeah, God, Tapper. Oh, Tapper.
Tapper is a great game. And I'll never find probably you, but like I've
Yeah.
never seen anyone as good at it as our former coworker Mike Rougeau.
Mike Rougeau was fantastic at Tapper. I've played with him.
It's the stuff of legend.
I'm decent at Tapper, but I have Tapper like here at any time.
Oh yeah,
Mortal Kombat.
Okay. So the Mortal Kombat it's a midway legacy cabinet with 12 games, right?
Yes,
and that includes Tapper.
Yes,
and that includes Rampage. You have Rampage in your office right now.
Also Paperboy, but I am one of the few people that thinks that Paperboy at NES is better than the arcade version.
Yeah. Well, but also Paperboy. Now, dig this: Paperboy in the arcade, you actually had the bicycle handlebars.
Yes,
you don't have the bicycle handlebars on your Mortal Kombat cabinet.
No, you got
because that would be insane.
Yeah. But like Joust is on there too. Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and then Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Tubin, which is a weird, fun game.
Ooh.
I can't remember what else is on there. Gauntlet, but Gauntlet like loses its luster after 5 minutes when you remember that Gauntlet was a quarter eating machine, and that's all it was there for, was to eat quarters.
Yes. Okay, Matt. So I would argue that games like Ninja Turtles and The Simpsons were also quarter eating machines.
Yeah, but those were fun. Gauntlet
they were super fun. They were super fun, but I would like to note, I did an early hands-on preview for Arcade 1-Up Simpsons cabinet a couple years ago now. Without the needing to like debate whether or not you're going to put in another quarter to make it to the next level, the Simpsons game is 34 minutes long.
And Chris, that is why I straight up modded my Final Fight arcade machine, because I love Final Fight. And I love 1940 whatever. Wait, hold on, let me look up.
The airplane.
1944. But there's like 10 of those in that series or whatever. I love those games, but like because putting a quarter in is such like a big part of that game, I'm like, just let me have all the games that I own, wink, and put them on this machine and spend so much time working on getting like weird systems that you can't find anymore on here.
Okay, so in your Final Fight now, roughly, in case you don't, unless you have an exact number, how many games are in this?
I will not say.
Arcade cabinet.
I will not say.
You will. So it's that many.
I'm not going to say. It is as many games as I own. Wink.
I am going to say a number. I don't want you to verbally confirm less or more, but just like give me a wink and I'll just know. 1,000. Okay.
Hold on, just look at me.
No. When are you going to have time for all that?
What I told Chris was 7 games. It's That's Goonies right. 2, Adventures of Bayou Billy, and Aladdin.
Matt, realistically, how many of those games do you play?
I've probably played a couple hundred, but here's the thing about, and I think it's an important discussion about the video game industry as a whole, is that there's so much stuff delisted, there's so much stuff that is dead and gone, and you can't buy anymore. Like, I would love to be able to buy Capcom's Quiz and Dragons, which was an arcade game made by Capcom. It's just a quiz game. It's I believe 4 players, but it is such a weird, wonderful, beautiful product of its time, where it's mixing D&D and like this kind of Capcom system and a quiz show, and it takes hours to beat when you're really going at it. I'd love to be able to purchase that, but like it's just gone. Like, what are you going to do? Like, there's stuff that was on like
was 3DO. There never a home release or anything of it?
Not that I'm aware of, and I've looked.
Wow.
But like stuff like 3DO, Jaguar,
3D, yeah, those things appeal to me because there were a few. There were a few games, I don't remember if they were 3DO or Jaguar games, that like I would love to revisit. Also, you know what would be great? I wish someone would re-release all of the old Commodore 64 games.
I have never.
There was a.
I don't think I've ever played a Commodore 64 game.
Oh man, the people next door to me had a Commodore 64 growing up. And they also had an Amiga growing
Mhm.
up. Remember the Amiga?
Yes.
And there was one game that I was obsessed with, and I would love to play it now. And it was a sort of a like you build a hot rod and you race it for pink slips against other hot rodders. Like, I didn't care so much about the racing part of the game, but the part where you're in the garage wrenching on the car and swapping out parts and whatnot to make the car more powerful,
Yeah.
like, I loved that. You had to, like, if I'm remembering correctly, please let me be remembering correctly. You would, like, search through the newspaper to look at who's selling what parts
Oh,
and then
man.
buy them.
That sounds
It
very
was
rad.
it was great. I don't know where it is. But if I could put that into an arcade cabinet, I absolutely would. Even
I
though it's a point and click sort of thing.
there are websites that are fantastic at preservation of
Mhm.
games and arcade games. Um, I'm trying to remember the legal ones. Like Library of Congress, you can play video games on there, like the
Isn't
government
that weird?
website.
Isn't that
It's weird,
crazy?
but I love it.
Yeah.
Archive.org has archived tons of, tons of things. Uh, the issue is like just legality and rights, and like there's a whole history of video gaming that is just lost at this point and gone. And like, yes, you can get it. It's not legal if
Yeah.
you don't own it, but like if it if it if these companies would put it out, like people would buy it. And I probably wouldn't be huge. Like you're not going to see people, you know,
You're not gonna make $1 billion off of it.
you're not going to make billions of dollars getting Sewer Shark. But I mean, like,
Oh wow, yes.
again, 3DO, man. Well, Sewer Shark was on a bunch of, I think it was on Sega CD as well.
Yeah.
Um, but look at like when Night Trap was re-released. It was actually, well, it was remastered more than anything else when it was remastered
Yeah.
for Switch, and it was a really good remaster for a game that I really believe was super ahead of its time. Um,
Absolutely.
the only limitations to it were the technology available at the time on like Sega CD wasn't the best. Like
What are
your
you
load
talking
times were
about, Matt?
terrible.
Full motion. Oh god, the load times, yeah.
Dude, FMV
Woof.
is, you know how I feel about FMV. We talk about it. We've talked about it.
FMV is
I
beautiful.
love FMV.
Like more FMV. Like we got the tech now. We
It
got it. We
Oh
got
no,
the
the
speed. Let's
FMV
go.
has there's a huge comeback at FMV where like I'm
There's one that I've tinkered around with. I don't remember what it's called though, but it's like you're looking through like interrogation videos to try to figure out a thing.
I would recommend, and when I say FMV, I'm talking about full motion videos.
Yes, full
Um,
motion video.
it's called Not for Broadcast. It's available on Steam, and again, there's so many great Steam FMV games. Not for Broadcast, you run a television network during like
I'm
a news
listening.
broadcast, and you have to choose between camera angles, choose between like bleeping out things. You can't lose the audience. You choose the ad rolls, and sometimes the ad rolls will be like for a politician that's really really sleazy, and you have to be careful about what you do, or you can just be a misinformation like machine if you want. I tend to play pretty journalist integrity in that game, but
Matt, I got to be honest with you.
yeah,
That used to be my job before journalism, so like I might be out.
yeah,
Or I
yeah,
might be more in. I'm not sure because I never got to be like the evil. Because like literally before I was a journalist, my job was programming commercial breaks for like a Fox and a CW
yeah,
affiliate.
yeah. Uh,
Woof. Not for broadcast.
Not for broadcast.
I will make a note of that.
And I mean, this and arcade wise, there's some decent FMV out there. Lethal Enforcers.
Jesus.
No, Revolution X, man. It was such a
Oh, Revolution X was the jam. Like,
just
what if Aerosmith had a shooting game?
what if you
Why?
pressed a button and
Why
it
not?
shot golden CDs?
Yeah. Seriously, honestly, I feel bad for the generation that came after us because they didn't have these game experiences, but like I feel like when the arcade like faded, it faded hard and
Mhm.
quick, and it bums me out that now like Dave and Buster's is what is sort of considered the modern day video arcade. And that's not a
Yeah.
slight against Dave and Buster's. I like beer, I like playing games, I like fun with friends and family. But like a video game arcade is such a very, very specific thing.
Mhm.
And I miss it.
I
Evidently there's a pinball arcade near me, and I got to go to that.
Pinball is something that I loved fixing pinball machines when I worked as a technician at an arcade. But you
Hmm.
also learn that like the reason pinball arcades don't last long is because they're so expensive to maintain. Like the
Hmm.
rubber that's used everywhere in there is not only annoying to replace, but dries and cracks really
Yeah.
easily.
Hmm.
And they're really just fickle machines because there's so many moving parts. Like when you have an
But they're so
arcade,
beautiful, dude.
you
Dude, a
have like a
pinball machine is a work of art.
it is like, but when you have like a fighting game, like you have a Street Fighter, it's like you have 12 buttons, 2 joysticks, and then the start buttons as well. And you just kind of lift the joystick panel up and see if anything needs to be resoldered or something's broken,
Hmm.
and that's it. And you maybe check the screen in the
Way
back,
easier.
make sure that the like where you put the coins in it, that little metal piece is hitting the button that says, "Hey, the money's been put in." It's really simple. Like with you have to fix a pinball machine if something electronically has gone wrong. You have to take the glass off, take the board out, the whole board. It's usually, I believe it was one piece for most games. Um, and if you have something that had like a magnetic component in it, like the construction
Hmm.
working one, I remember having real issues with. And there was a mystical, magical one too from the late 90s.
Okay.
Um, that you have to take out the you have to unscrew the bottom and the top, and they were just a pain in the anytime a pinball machine broke, I would do my best to not report it and hope that the next day someone else had to fix it because it's a time
Oh,
suck.
wow.
You worked by yourself at the arcade at the one I worked at, so it's like I'm not going to spend 4 hours making sure that Adam's family is working.
Matt, if there was any machine you were going to make sure is working properly, it's Adam's Family Pinball, the greatest pinball machine of all time.
I'm
Second greatest pinball machine of all time? World Cup 94, I think it was. The one with the dog
I'm
as the
very
mascot, the
partial to
cartoon dog.
Demolition Man, but that's just because of my love for
D-
Demolition Man.
Demolition Man is a great pinball, and Demolition Man would be a great arcade game.
They made numerous arcade games, not arcade, but numerous games of Demolition Man. It was like Super Nintendo, I think
Yeah.
Sega CD. They're all
I would
terrible.
love for them to take I would love like for them to take modern cracks at these properties that we love from the 90s so much. Like there was a really really terrible Die Hard arcade game.
Ooh, it
Um
depends which one you're talking about. You're talking about Die Hard Trilogy, which is called something else on God, it's called something else on
no.
Dreamcast.
I think this one I don't remember the exact name. I thought it was just Die Hard. And I remember I could have sworn the levels were more or less from the first Die Hard. It was in an ugly there's
Oh, you're
I
talking
you got
you're talking like 80s era Die Hard
yeah,
game.
like late 80s, early 90s. Yeah.
Okay, I'm talking. It was mid '90s. It's called Die Hard Trilogy on Dreamcast. It's called Dynamite Cop. Essentially, they're the same game. It's the same like
Wow.
engine. That game is fantastic. But the one you're thinking of is more like a bad version of Elevator Action. Yeah,
Yeah. Not good.
no,
Not good at all.
just play
Um
Elevator Action. That game is fantastic.
before we wrap up, I want to talk cabinet art and cabinet
Yes,
design because
yes.
there are some very cool cabinets. There are also some very terrible ones. Uh I speak of course of WWF Royal Rumble in the ugliest white plastic
Mhm.
like vacuum formed quote unquote cabinet I've ever seen.
But you can have 9 wrestlers in the ring at the same time. Something that has still
On
yet
two
to be done.
TVs. It's two TVs, one for player one, one for player two. But Matt, you have to admit, it's an ugly. In fact, when I went to my brother's wedding in Las Vegas, which was now back in 2021,
Mhm.
wow, it's been over a year. Back in 2021, I found it inside Circus Casino.
Oh God,
I found I sent you a I remember I sent you a picture of
I
it because I
believe
was
you did.
blown
Yeah.
away. And then I played it for an hour and a half. Great game.
It
Great terrible game.
yeah. In an era,
It's not good, but it's so entertaining.
but it's an era where it's like there were so many good wrestling games at that exact time because you're coming out of THQ Aki stuff, and then you're coming.
Yeah, bro, but none of those are at the arcade. Like back in the day, growing up, we had like Superstars. Was WrestleMania was a game.
WrestleMania was
There
more
were
like
there were
the fighting game. Saturday Night Slam Masters was a huge one for me, and its sequel, Muscle Bomber Duo.
was
And
Saturday Night Slam Masters in the arcade.
yes, and it was straight up. It was that was the Capcom one.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, there are some really really good wrestling games. Some really good, very old wrestling games that were in the arcade. I feel like they were trying to reignite that with Royal Rumble. And like, look, it's not a good game. It is a fun game though. And it was also, I believe it's the only WWF game on the Dreamcast.
Ooh, I can
I'm pretty
check.
sure.
I'm not going to check.
I'm gonna check because I'm pretty sure arcade game wiki. I'm relatively sure. Yeah, 1993 WWF Royal Rumble. Oh, no, that's the Super Nintendo version. I'm talking WWF Royal Rumble 2000.
Yeah.
Which yeah, arcade and Dreamcast.
But there may have been another arcade game, not arcade, sorry, another Dreamcast wrestling game. God, I'm trying to think now. Now I've got to type this in. I like the fact that one of the things I have loaded up on my tabs.
My apologies, Matt.
Yeah.
Like evidently Dreamcast had WWF Attitude.
Yes, which was also on PlayStation and on not Xbox though. No,
yeah,
Xbox was not around at that time.
And looks like no,
Chris, one of the tabs I have open,
Fire Pro Wrestling D.
Yes,
they had a Fire Pro.
Good Chris, one of the tabs I have open right now, we were talking about modding earlier. I was getting like really into like 3DO stuff and like researching 3DO. One of the things I have open is a full motion video game, Killing Time, which is a first person shooter that features full motion video that I want to play so bad. It looks terrible.
Oh, that sounds
absolutely
awesome,
terrible.
Like honestly, grade A title. What a title. Killing Time.
3DO is filled with so much much FMV, like Doom and Wolfenstein knockoffs that I'm sure are all terrible.
Good.
I mean, and getting
Rise of the Triad on the 3DO?
I don't know.
Rise of the Triad was a Doom Wolfenstein clone that like I truly loved. Hitting on cabinet art real quick. Are there any that stand out in your mind as like beautiful
okay
work?
I've got to type it in. Hold on, I don't know the name of it. I see it all the time at Galloping Ghost, and it is okay. So late 80s, early 90s, when like side-scrolling beat 'em ups were all of the rage. All of them had on the front light up marquee like pictures of real dudes like saving a real person, and they were all terrible. But there's one in particular. I gotta look at it. Hold on.
While you do that, I'll talk about another one. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game. Beautiful art with a real live woman, April O'Neil, and 4 definitely not real life turtles. Kind of magnificent, truly. But like I love the art on that cabinet. Aforementioned Mortal Kombat 2, the Raiden side panels with all the electricity were just freaking beautiful.
That's the one I have right now too. And it's on the side. And
yeah. Oh, it's so good.
This is going to kill me if I can't find it. I should have what is it called? It's going to bug me. Is it Miami something?
Probably.
Chris, this is gonna kill me. This is going to
Sorry, bro. Try to think of what other ones I loved. Like I love the sight of I love a Miss Pac-Man cabinet. Those bright colors like get me every time. God, I just feel it bums me out. Like I wish arcades were more widespread. And I know they're not. Like this is even a kind of thing where like I'm holding out hope that they'll make a comeback one day. gaming is online now. There's no need for that. I mean, there is a need for them for that communal experience, but like, I feel like we're too far beyond the pale to go back. Did you figure it out, Matt?
No, Chris. I don't. I think it's a kind of a rare game that like I keep seeing. It has. God, what is the name of it? I can't remember if it's the one where like it's a 2-player game where one person plays as the driver, the other person plays as the person shooting the gun. Um, which is a Japanese game that kind of came to America. Or if it's
I have no clue.
this is gonna kill me. It's just gonna.
Okay, Matt, we're gonna leave. We're gonna let it go.
Hold
We're
on,
gonna
hold
leave it
on.
behind. Oh, he just thought of a keyword.
Maybe. Yeah, this will never tell me though, because
Okay, cool.
you type in side scrolling beat 'em up, and it's just like, hey, look at Double Dragon and every Capcom game.
Yeah. Okay. Well, any other cabinets come to mind that you think that you love the art on?
I'm always super partial to it's not a bad game. For some reason the grid always drew me in. It's one of the later Midway games where you're just in this kind of place, this little battle zone shooting other players that you're playing against. But it was just a very simple, like I remember just green and black or green lines on a black background, and it had a weird joystick, like a fighter pilot joystick. But grids, every time I'd walk by grid, I'm like, that game looks so bad. And I would end up plugging so much money into it because I liked just the look of the cabinet.
I have a similar one, Tron. The
Tron's
Tron cabinet
fantastic.
the Tron cabinet is art. The light up joystick, the spinning wheel, like just the look of the cabinet, the colors, the design. I hated the game. I still don't know how to play the game. I don't care. The game, like I got every time the only place I knew that had Tron was Hammer Skate, the skating rink in Stockton, and I was drawn to it every time I went to skate. Like I had to put at least one quarter into it just to get my hands on it, because like, damn, that game ruled.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
We're gonna wrap things up, Matt, with a little lightning round.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you a series of questions relating to video game arcades. You just give me your personal answer.
Okay.
All right. Favorite cabinet ever. Not the one you're best at, your favorite ever.
Favorite cabinet ever. I'm saying it out loud so it gives me time to think more. I think I'm just gonna go X-Men because it's just such a nostalgia, like the purple, the a game that's based
the
off
side by
pilot.
side screens.
Yeah, well, for the 6-player one, yes.
Which is the 6-player one.
And I believe that's also mirrored too. So I believe you're looking at a mirror the entire time, and
they're down below.
Yeah. But the 6-player one, which is a game that's based off a pilot for an animated series that never got picked up, the Kitty's Pride or the Pride of Kitty or whatever, the Pride of the X-Men.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It is such a good looking cabinet and has like it stood out so much from everything else at that time with the red and purple and the yellow, and also has Wolverine. They were really like Wolverine back then.
All right, what's your least favorite cabinet?
Least favorite cabinet. I think it's going to be Aliens. Or is it just Aliens? Well, I'm not saying Alien versus Predator. I think that game it's a money suck that's fun for about 10 minutes. But
yeah,
Aliens, like I remembered that I forgot what the term is called completely, and it'll kill me. But the call to action or the attract mode. Thank you to myself.
Oh yeah. Okay.
The attract mode was very, very, very loud, and the gameplay is very dull. And the cabinet itself is just like you recognize the Aliens logo, and that's what's going to drag you in. But it was an ugly cabinet to me.
That's fair. Also, Matt, as a former video game arcade employee, can't you turn is there a way to turn the volume down on these things?
Yeah.
Or in some cases turn it up?
Yeah, you can mess with the track mode. You can it depends on the game. difficulty levels are definitely a thing for a lot of games. How many lives you get per quarter, how many quarters it takes to actually start a game. That's all.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So even in modding, if like not within the arcade 1-ups, you can't really get into a lot of the debug menus.
Yeah.
Midway's 12-1 you can, but
My NBA Jam has a debug menu.
I don't think mine does, unless I just never figure out
that's
how to get into
interesting.
it. Because you have the Shack mode and I have the regular.
I had it on but I had it on the other one too.
Maybe I just never like looked into how getting into it.
Yeah.
Because
you're
I
too
was
busy,
upset
like,
that you couldn't
owning the
unlock
court.
Raiden to play as.
That is a huge missed
Or
opportunity.
Bill Clinton or George Clinton.
Instead, you can build your character and give him a Santa Claus head or a little.
Well,
boy
that's
head.
Hang Time. That's a Hang Time is a brilliant.
Oh, that's Hang Time. My apologies. NBA Jam Tournament Edition and NBA Hang Time are all in this one cabinet.
Yes.
I mostly rolled with Hang Time.
Same here. They dropped the ball on not including Showtime, which was the 4th in the series.
Ooh,
Showtime is fantastic.
Agreed. What is the most overrated arcade game? What's the game everyone loves that you think is bad?
I don't think it's bad. But I'm gonna say Alien versus Predator. I mean, we all have nostalgia for it. I think it's aesthetically, like the characters, it looks beautiful. I think the game itself is fun for about 5 minutes, and then you realize that you're just hitting attack, and that's all you're doing.
I feel like
bad.
Yeah, that's fair. And last thing, you're clearly an influencer. You have a Twitch stream. You're a podcaster. You're a comedian. You're a writer.
I used to be a comedian. I'm still kind of doing it. All right.
Arcade 1-Up is listening to this podcast. I have faith in that. You have a direct line to them. What's the game they need to make?
I can't say it out. God, you've put me in a weird spot, Chris, because I know information.
Is it the information I told you?
Yeah.
Okay. Pretend I never told you that. We'll just cut this part out. You can name any game you're dying to see Arcade 1-Up put out.
Let's get wild. Here's what you do.
Okay.
Give me. Are you ready for this?
Just
Chris?
you or everyone?
Everyone.
Okay, good. Whew.
Let's get wild.
I think I'm probably gonna want one.
You're gonna want one.
Let's go.
Give me Hydro Thunder. No. Sorry. Give me Time Crisis. What am I doing? Give me all 5 Time Crisis games in one arcade cabinet.
Wow.
Or is it 6? I can't remember how many there are. Or at least give me the first 3.
You just want a Time Crisis multi-cade.
Oh,
you want all of them in one box in your house.
Because Time Crisis is the best first-person shooter arcade game. Period. End of story. Or the best series. Name a better one.
Terminator 2 is
Terminator 2 is garbage. That's a quarter muncher. That's all it is.
Okay, this episode's over. Sorry. We will just have to agree to disagree, Matt. But I want to thank you.
I want to thank
for
you.
being my first.
Oh.
You're the first big kid, bro. Well, I'm the first big kid. You're the second big kid, bro.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
What do you have to plug?
I'm gonna have
Tell
to
me your stuff.
Chris, I have to bring up a text chain because by the time this probably goes out, the show will be launched, but I haven't announced it yet.
Okay.
I've kind of announced it. I have an upcoming improv comedy series called I'm One of You with Oliver Jett Sr. It is a show about a rich billionaire doing super mundane, normal people things to make people feel that he's cool. Imagine if Elon Musk or Vince McMahon had to go to the grocery store to buy a gallon of milk. That would be an episode of this show. And so it's It's myself on there as the lead character, the rich billionaire.
You're Oliver Jett Sr.
Yeah, and
what is his name? What's his name again?
Look at him because it's still not like we're recording this week. We're recording like 6 episodes this week. I'm One of You with Oliver Jett Sr.
Okay.
It's myself.
Okay, yeah, please.
Yeah, myself and comedian Matt Drufke, who I've worked with for years. Also,
I heart Matt Drufke.
I hate Matt Drufke, is who he is on Twitter.
Oh, is it hate?
Hates.
Oh,
I
my
hate.
bad.
Yeah.
I thought it was heart.
Also
I think he's
former
great.
podcast buddy of mine from a show I did years ago called Verse the Net. Jack Baker will be on there. My friend Sarah Clancy. You are going to be on one. We're still planning the formatting. So a bunch of my friends, Sarah Clancy, one of my friends who we both podcasted with on Wrestle Buddies a couple times. And
very cool. Wild. Sarah Clancy has wild wrestling stories that like make me feel like I'm not a cool enough fan.
Yes. Yes.
Like Sarah Clancy was ringside at like some weird wild stuff.
Yes. And then also I'm actually trying to get a couple wrestlers to come on that show.
Perfect.
I'm not going to put the names out there. I called one of them out on Twitter, but and then I'm also on Twitch.
I saw that, so I'm going to put the name out there. Serpentico.
It's
You're not
Serpentico.
listening to this, but be on Matt's show.
Serpentico and I have been talking about him coming on my Twitch stream as well, where right now I'm just making funny wrestlers. And Chris and I are playing GM mode sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm streaming.
Are you going to stretch out into other games?
Yeah, I will. I've done DuckTales.
Nice.
I think the hard part about getting into Twitch was I started playing WWE 2K23 the same day as everybody else, so it's an oversaturated market. So I'm just making weird wrestlers, and that's fun. And I'm hanging out and chatting with people, and then I'm working on one more podcast, which is a long way out. That Chris.
Well, where's your Twitch stream?
Oh, I'm Mat Elfring. It's IMMATELFRING. I'm Matt with one T.
And we'll make sure we put the links to your Twitch stream and also I'm guessing your Twitter and Instagram, if you'd like.
Twitter, Instagram.
In the description of in description of this episode, where you'll be able to find links to all of Matt's things.
I do things on the internet because I have a lot of free time right now.
I don't, and yet here I am doing things on the internet. Matt, thank you so much. You are I love you to death. You know this. You are one of my closest friends.
Yes.
We talk almost as much as we did when we were working together all day, every day.
It feels like a lot less because we're not in Slack together all day.
Yeah, it feels like a lot less because Slack isn't involved, but like, I mean, now I'm just gonna have you on the pod a bunch, and you're gonna have to have me, I guess, doing a character of some sort to Winston Jeffries the Third or whatever his name was.
Jets
Stan
Sr.
Gibson.
Oliver
Jets Sr.
Billionaire.
Is Jets Jets?
It's JETTS.
Okay.
He has the extra T from my name of Matt.
Yeah,
which I lost.
he took it from you. But yeah, any closing words? Any final thoughts before we close this bad boy out?
RoboCop.
That's a deep cut. Goodbye, everyone.